Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, September 26th. Just going to run through the morning charts. We've got some pretty good action forming and some possible good setups coming into play today and possibly later this week. So if we take a look at the US dollar index, here we've got the 60-minute chart. And you can see I've just zoomed out 2 months here, and you can see the big run that we've had. More or less, we had a declining trend line, and we had a beautiful break out of that. A nice pullback into a support zone, which actually also ran to another previous peak back here. From there, we took a long position, caught a beautiful surge up, exited late last week, and took some money off the table as this is a pretty key resistance zone from previous back on the chart. And there is potential for it to go higher, but overall we had a beautiful run to the upside, and there's a good chance that it could roll over. So we ended up taking our position off, and we're going to wait for a new fresh entry where we can get some easy money out of the market. Now, last night we actually saw, if I just zoomed in on this chart, late last night we saw a nice jump up in the US dollar index, and then for the several hours after that going into this morning we saw it continue to move up, and it actually broke the previous high that we had here last week. That strength in the US dollar really put pressure on commodities this morning, and we had a huge dip in gold, silver, and oil last night. So just to show you what happened in crude oil, crude oil continues to pull back. It made a lower low. This is, if I just zoom out a little bit here, you can see the overall trend. Sorry, you can see the trend's been down. A stair-stepping pattern continues lower. We ended up shorting into this rising wedge right here about a week and a half ago, and we caught a nice downdraft to our target. I did have a full-time target, a main target of 76, but we had 81 as our actual key target to be looking to get out, depending on how it got there. And the fact that it dropped straight down there put in a pretty good chance that we were going to get a very sharp bounce straight back up. So we ended up getting out there for an 18% gain. But if we zoom in on the short-term chart, you can see the recent sell-off. We've actually got what I've been talking about in gold for a long time. You get three surges to a new high or new low, usually forms a top or bottom. So we got a surge, and it quickly reversed the upside, had another surge to the downside, made a new low, bounced back up, surged last night, or this morning actually, to another new low. This kind of bottoming action is a good sign that I think we're going to see prices start to bounce here. Now we're probably going to see it come somewhere up to the 84, 85 area, and I simply say that because just looking at the chart, you've got pretty key resistance in this zone. You've got some congestion back here, a pivot low. We broke through this level a couple of times. We had a pivot low here, and you can see the price drop to that support zone, and it tried to hold, and then it just gave way. So we know there's a key level right here where we're going to find resistance. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bounce, a relief bounce up to there. After that, the trend overall is still down, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see crude oil trade sideways, and it may try and form a base here, but overall the trend is down, so you'd be looking to actually take profits or put a very tight stop in up under your price if you get into it here. Now looking at the gold chart, I just want to point out this morning we saw crude oil, it dipped all the way down to the 77, $77, almost 77.10. It dipped right down, bounced straight back up. Again, this is just a bottoming action. We did see those prices touched pretty much late last week. Just pierced again this morning, and overall I'm finding it to be more of a bullish chart now on the short-term basis for a 1 or 2 day bounce. Now looking at the gold chart, this is the 4-hour chart. Zooming back, you can see several months here, 4 or 5 months, and overall the trend is up. And what we had here, this was the three surges to a new high, followed by strong selling. And once you get those three surges, you better watch out, because a lot of times the market will start to erode and actually give way. And that's what I pointed out back on August 31st, which was a couple days before. I said if we get one more surge to a new high, we're likely going to get sold into very strongly. And that's what we did. Last week we saw gold just free fall, and it tumbled down to my target of 1640. Now if we just zoom in here, last week it came down and put it in a bottom down here with a low around 1632. And I pointed out in last night's report that we're likely going to see gold and silver have a little bit more downside. There was a big move that happened on Friday on both gold and silver, and usually there's more momentum behind a 2-day drop like that. Anyways, the market opened this morning, and I think everybody was in panic mode after reading about it in the news and looking it up in their accounts through the weekend. And of course, everybody set sell orders for the when the market opened today, and all those orders flooded and sold gold all the way down to 1533, dropping gold at $100 in a blink of an eye. And now we've got that rebound back to the 1625. So this is starting to do what the crude oil is doing. We're forming a bottom. We've had a nice panic washout. We've had a nice surge, another very nice surge with a big bottoming candle. The fact that it's got a huge tail like that where it comes down and washes the market out and then it gets bought right back up. The longer the tail to the downside, the more bullish it is to go up. So I do feel as though gold is trying to put in the bottom, and we've actually reached the prices that I was hoping we would reach last night that I wrote in my report. We really want to get this final washout, and and then it looks like a good long entry for a possible move to the 1775 area, where again we've got key resistance through here from pivot lows and a breakdown zone. And simply when it gets to this level, should be cautious because we are now, in my opinion, starting to look like gold wants to be in a little bit of a downtrend, and there's going to be a downward trend line here that will be drawing eventually, and there will be resistance. So that's kind of where we stand for gold. Looking at silver, silver is still trading much sharply lower, down another 5% this morning. That's 30% in 3 days. And this is a 4-hour chart. So you can see we had Thursday, Friday, and today silver dipped all the way down to the 26 area. Very long candle, came back up. And I think today we're going to get maybe even a grind lower, even in gold and silver. Even though they're trying to put in a bottom here, I do think we're going to see continued selling pressure as people just say, just get me out of the metals. I'm getting slaughtered more or less here. You know, we've seen a drop from pretty much 40 all the way down to 26, and that is not a healthy drop. That's a lot of damage done to the charts. But again, silver is very speculative. Traders in there are in there for the quick money. They know it's big. Big money if they catch the right move. And all of this is an unwinding of all those people piling in, anticipating silver to go back up to 50 and then 75 and 100. And all this is shaking them all out. So we are getting down to a fair value, getting all the speculative money out of the market. And the people holding silver and gold right now are more investors. And it's a fair value, in my opinion, for both gold and silver here. Now looking at the SP 500. This is the SPY ETF right here. And if you just look at it, this is the 60-minute chart. And over the little while here, we've seen the trend down. We've seen this large bull flag or a base trying to form more or less. Anyways, we had a huge rundown last week. Big gap to the downside. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a gap fill here. So we've got this gap window. Today, I wouldn't be really too surprised if we actually see it come back up. And the fact that everybody is flushed out, and we've seen down here volume pick up on this big gap to the downside. Everybody is actually turning very, very bearish on the market, and it does look very bearish. But I have to think on a contrarian basis that if everybody's finally washing out and we're seeing it happen across the board in stocks, commodities, then maybe we are actually putting in a bottom. And there is a similar feeling and setup to what we had back in 2010 when the market had the big flash crash and it gapped to a big drop and almost pierced some new lows. And that actually was the bottom of the next big bull market, a next rally that lasted several months. So I'm keeping my eyes open, and I'm not dedicated to the downside. I'm actually just going to wait and see what's happening. If we do get a gap fill, we could be looking for a short position, but depending how it gets there, volume, price action, and what all the other stocks and commodities are doing will kind of signify if we should be actually looking to maybe go long rather than short. So I'm going to play that one by ear. Looking at the futures chart of the SP 500 this morning, Here you can see this is a 24-hour chart of futures, and what you see here is the big volume spikes. These are regular trading session hours, 9:30 to 4, each one of these, and that's when you get majority of the price action. So on Friday we saw the market had it gapped lower. We saw it run up, close fairly strong for the day. Overall, it was still a pretty neutral day though, because it gapped substantially lower and just ran up to fill the morning gap. But overall, in overnight trading last night, we saw futures run up. We saw them sell off very sharply back down again, and now they've run back up to the highs, and they're starting to get a little bit choppy up here. We'll see how it plays out going forward. More or less, we've had a big move up this morning, and we're kind of coming into a resistance zone from back here 3 days ago. So we're just going to see how things play out today and see if we can possibly scale into some positions, maybe in gold and silver, and possibly even oil. The equities market to me isn't really showing any significant pattern that I really want to get involved yet, but I do like the chart of crude oil, and gold and silver are starting to look like they're bottoming here. Anyways, that's it for now, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Bye bye.